something that you were a part of in the past that kind of in a way, kind of binds you to something. You do your arms up there for a sec? There we go. Kind of all over his sport coat here and stuff, but he said I could, so I'm gonna. Yeah, and so Paul's got, I keep saying Paul, James has got this situation that, he not a lot of people can see it, not a lot of people can understand it, but he takes a couple steps and boom, he's stuck there. In this situation in his life, and we can attach any kind of title to it if we want. We can say, because it happens different ways to different families and happens different ways to different people, but there could be this thing potentially that, he's just found in his life that James has dealt with throughout the course of his life that, I can keep a lot of it quiet, I can keep a lot of it down, I can keep a lot of it out of people's, face, and they may not see it about me, but I kind of know I'm tied to this thing. And I find that I can go just so far, and then I kind of just have to start over again. I find that I can kind of take things up to a certain level, and then I just got to kind of start over again. But he might be able to seemingly control it and keep it to himself. Maybe only his wife knows. Probably his wife knows. They know everything. And what if it was something as simple as years back that he grew up in and I don't know this and I'm making this up because I actually know the opposite of this is true. What if you grew up in a situation where there were just not two dimes to rub together? Poverty seemed to be a cloud over his household. What if that was the case? What if that was the case and he just scraped and scrimped and went after trying to be able to get ahead and trying to be able to get out of debt and trying to be able to invest in things that made him money and what if? And he keeps going to the end of that rope and not able to realize what exactly has happened. What if it was as simple as somebody in his past saying, we are just never going to have enough money. And they start saying that, and they start believing that, and then they start seeing their actions proving that. And the enemy goes, I can work with that. I can deal with that. I can take that to a place of manifesting it in their life. And maybe even as a kid, he just watched. Parents always, sorry, we don't have enough money for that, son. Sorry, son, we're not going to be able to do that. And what should have been maybe a season of apologies became a lifestyle of apologies. A lifestyle of the enemy saying, I can work with those words. And he may have never known it, may have never been a part of it, but he did his best throughout life. Grew up, struggling through. And he just thought, I can keep control of this. I'll make enough just to make it in life. And he has a little boy named Paul. And Paul grows up in an environment of watching mom and dad struggle. And he's seeing a repetition of a cycle with what he grew up in. And he's seeing that happen. And he might have even gotten in the habit of saying things the same way. What is it about it? Sitting at the kitchen table with bills and, hitting the table. What is it with us? Why can't we seem to get ahead? It just seems like we're always in need. And Junior sees that. And he goes as far as he can, and Junior goes as far as he can, but it's still tied to this weight, to this heaviness, to this thing that they can't seem. Dad, what is it about us? I see other folks who are in the same business as we are. I see other folks getting ahead. I see other folks going to the colleges that we want to go. And why can't it? And it just seems like it's this cloud with no answer, with no explanation. He goes as far as he can go. He gets married, grows up, and finds out that there's a little RJ coming. Come on over here, RJ. And I, come on, just make it snappy. Here we go. Come on. All right, so RJ gets to some place in life that he begins finding out what some of God's promises are. And the promises of God promise him that he doesn't have to be the tail, he can be the head. That he doesn't have to be in need all the time, but he can have all that he needs all the time. He starts finding out that there's a contradiction here of what is promised in here and what is happening in here. What do I do? How do I solve it? What do I have to do to get this cycle, it seems, this thing that seems to be the way that the Jordan family does life? And you can attach several things to it. For my family, it was heart disease, it seems like. And at some point, when you start seeing things that are happening in your life and you start seeing things, you have to say, is this something that I can trace right through all the way? Has there been just constant divorces happening? Has there been constant philandering on behalf of, somebody in the family? Has there been situations of sexual addictions? And you can just put anything in the blank that you need to. And you do that inventory. You say, God, would you show me? God, would you speak to me? Because God, I want to be a cycle breaker. I want it to end right here. I don't want to, speaking for RJ, I don't want to grow up and pass on the same thing. I don't want to grow up and just have the same cycles generation after generation after generation happening with my family as it applies to the future. Does that make any sense at all? Yes. There need to be cycle breakers, and that's important. So it happens through generations, and we're going to knock the rest of these out. Would you give these guys a hand? Can you untie yourselves and everything? Is that good? Can you do that? And I'm gonna give you the next 4 real quick as they're untying, and you can just drop them there, gentlemen. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Next one, very quickly. Number 1, generational influences. We'll wrap it up with these. Number 2, words. We kind of already talked about it a little bit in the verses that we showed earlier, but our words oftentimes curse each other, or curse ourselves, or curse situations. Sometimes we even curse things unintentionally. Maybe not even trying to, but maybe we're just so used to saying the Debbie Downer kind of words all the time. Maybe that's the case. Disobedience is another one. Curses can come through disobedience. You see that all throughout the Old Testament. We don't have time to go there today, but Deuteronomy chapter 28 is split directly in half. The first part of Deuteronomy chapter 8 talks about all of the blessings that God promises if we live in obedience to Him. The second part of Deuteronomy chapter 8 talks about the curses that come with disobedience. The door that kicks open wide when we disobey, and the curses that come. And oftentimes we see that when we disobey, that there's this cause and effect situation that happens. And that God doesn't even have to flip some switch in heaven to make curses rain down on people. That because of sin and the sin of Adam, back in Genesis chapter 3, we find that we have grown into or lived in the curse of sin because of Adam. That it becomes natural for us to sin, to disobey, to rebel. And oftentimes that exposes curses in our lives, lifts God's hand of protection. The next one might shock you a little bit. Gossip and carnal talk against other folks can be forms of cursing. Situations where we can create a wrong atmosphere. When Susie and I were in some of our marriage counseling some years back, he said to me, the counselor said to me, he goes, Aaron, when Suzette uses words like always and never, she's taken the volume of the conversation up. Because she doesn't really mean always, and she doesn't always mean never. She just wants to get a point across. That thing I don't like, Aaron. That thing violates our commitment and our covenant together. And you always do this. Of course, my answer is what all of you guys answer. Like, I don't always do that. And your mind is thinking through all the times that you can prove her wrong. But it's those kinds of situations where she's using her words to change the atmosphere of that argument, of that spirited conversation that we often have.